Olá, boa tarde. Tudo bem? Como estão? Eu falo português, então I'm going to do this in English. I'm sorry. Next time I come to Brazil, I promise, maybe I'll do it in Portuguese. But like he was mentioning, my name's Jackie Hyland. I am Director of Business Development and Partnerships at WIZE, a software development company based in San Francisco. And I'm here to chat a little bit about kind of the new ways that we look at companies that are being built, and as an investor, the types of companies that you should look to invest in. And those three main things that I'll start out with here are diverse, distributed, and global, and the future of building and investing in companies. Let's see. So I just want to start out with a little bit about myself. This has sort of been my life. It looks like a straight line. When he comes out and describes who I am, it sounds really nice and pretty. But the truth is, life and career has kind of gone all over the place. I'm actually a person who probably would have never thought in the beginning of my career that I would have ended up in Silicon Valley. I started my career working for a nonprofit in Panama, working with smallholder farmers to help them build their farms. It was from there that I realized entrepreneurship was a really great way to simply say, let's fix problems in our countries. So I started a nonprofit, and from there moved to Mexico, where I worked for the first angel investment fund. And there I started to learn more about finance and the way to channel capital to better and different ideas around the world. And then I found myself going to impact investing and then to Silicon Valley Bank, where I was director of Latin America. And it was there, being in Silicon Valley, that many people asked me, oh, how do you have a global job in Silicon Valley? There's so many things happening here, and so many groups focused just on California. And the reason I kind of want to chat about this today is I think I'm probably one of the last people to be based in California to have that conversation. I think more and more what's going to be happening is that people are going to shift from making it Silicon Valley focus to a more global, opportunistic investing and company building. Does anyone recognize these two people? You can shout it out. Bill Gates, yes. One person, there we go. So this is Bill Gates and Paul Allen in their famous garage picture, right? This is what people use still today to talk about how startups are built and the types of companies you want to invest in. But this company was built over 30 years ago in the mid-'70s, and out of a garage that today in California would probably cost you about $5,000 to rent. So this idea of building something in a physical space has changed dramatically. This is what starting a company looks like today. People are remote. They are connected over their computers, over Skype, over Slack, over WhatsApp, over iMessage. There are millions of tools today. This is my friend Alex Torrenegra. If you watch Shark Tank Colombia, he is one of the sharks on the show. He started a company, a Colombian who moved to Miami, who wanted to help other people like himself get jobs in the United States. And so he started a platform that would connect job opportunities to gig economy workers. And today his company as well is also distributed around the world, mostly in the Americas. But for Alex, he's in San Francisco. He has many people in Miami, Colombia, Mexico. And he continues to tell me this is the way he builds companies. And now that he invests, and he is an investor on Shark Tank, he asks and looks for companies like this. So when we talk about distributed, what do we mean? And when we get into distributed, I kind of want to use where I'm at now for a little bit of an example. So WIZE, what does WIZE do? WIZE's a product development company that started in 2014, and what we do is we help our clients solve their biggest challenge with design and technology. So we work with clients like Disney, we work with clients like Nat Geo, to help them figure out how they can move into the digital age. Most of these companies are pre-internet, so they started before the internet, and they're needing help. And the interesting thing is they're looking to us, a company that has most of their engineers in Mexico and Vietnam, to help build that. So from this map here, we started 4 years ago, and we actually started initially in 2 cities, in Guadalajara and San Francisco. And now we have engineers that have come not only from these places to work on projects, but from all over the world. So we have a very diverse group of engineers, about 450 today, that have come from places in Asia, the US, South America, Australia, parts of Africa. And we're really proud of that because we believe that that diversity and that distribution helps us be a faster growing company. Earlier this year, we raised $43 million from a private equity fund in New York, and that is because we've already had presence in so many countries, and we know have been able to expand quickly. That speed has allowed us to convince investors that we're going to be the new kind of company that's going to win in this industry. And the funny thing is, even though we've done so well in the business, a lot of the press that we've gotten is around this idea. Culturally, people, employers, employees in particular, are looking for companies that are borderless. They're looking for companies that look more like them and feel like them. Given some of the politics in the United States, which I'm sure some of you have followed, there's a lot of talk about building walls and putting up more borders and keeping certain people out. The great thing is that the internet really isn't compatible with borders. And for our company that's growing beyond those borders, it makes it very attractive and a very interesting thing for people around the world. So we've gotten a lot of press around around being that different type of company. And similarly, this year there was a lot of negative press about Silicon Valley, that Silicon Valley is going away, Silicon Valley is dead. There's a lot of hyperbole in these headlines, and it's really interesting, because I think it is finally coming to a place where you say, why is Silicon Valley needing to be this one place, the one superstar, when in so many other places there are a lot of things happening? And as we look at just pretty much also investors are saying the same thing. As I mentioned earlier, it's not free to start a startup in your garage anymore in San Francisco. It's actually quite expensive. And we've seen investors here that say, this year, we're looking at companies that if they aren't distributed, that's kind of going to be a negative for us. It's hard for us as investors to invest in a company that has such high cost of living. It's very difficult to attract talent that wants to be in those places. And in order for us to make the right bets, we need to be looking at these trends to find the right places. And as I mentioned, it's just not one place anymore. If you look on Wikipedia, that's where I pulled this from, you can find hundreds of Silicon this, Silicon Beach, Silicon Bayou, Silicon Desert, Silicon Coast, Silicon Forest. There's a bazillion names where it's been copycatted. And the great thing about it is I think the second name is because of the localization. So Silicon Valley, as we've talked about all day today, is more of a mindset. And these places, while they have maybe the silly Silicon name or nickname, the truth is these places really are growing so fast that they're attracting investor attention from around the world and talent attention. One great example outside of WIZE is WordPress. So I'm sure many of you might have used WordPress to write a blog or build a website. But WordPress, now part of Automatic, is 100% remote. And their CEO says that that's one of the things it believes about the future and how they're going to grow into a bigger and more competitive business and how they attract talent. And this is a great article on Harvard Business Review, if you want to check it out. Similarly, scarcity for talent in the US is an all-time high, in particular for engineers. The overall unemployment rate in the US is about 4%. And for engineers, that's hovering around 1%. And people come to us usually thinking, oh, we want to do local talent, find the best local talent. But the truth is, in engineering and technology, there's talent in so many places, but the opportunity to connect with technology builds and those people is still low. So people are looking and coming to people like WizeLine, like our group, to say, can we work with you? Can we understand where you're finding your talent? And it's interesting, because they are sometimes surprised when we say Mexico and Vietnam. Sometimes these are people who've never worked with anyone outside of their country, who've never traveled to any of these places. And so what happens sometimes is we'll get a project that someone will say, sure, we'll try out a Mexican engineer or a Brazilian. We have 5 Brazilians. We could say a Brazilian engineer. But let's put an ex-Apple engineer next to him, just to make sure that she does her job correctly, that she can hit all the marks that the other engineer can. And it's funny, because time after time after time, they always end up coming back and saying, wow, We've been really impressed with the quality of your engineering team. We'd like to hire more of you. And it's funny because with our types of companies, and the more this is happening, the more people break down their mental barriers and shifts about what it's like to find talent outside of the United States. Similarly, in San Francisco, in California, the minimum wage for an engineer is $92,000 a year. And in other places around the world, you can find this is an average, not the top, but not a brand new engineer. This is the average salary you can make in some of these hubs. I know I forgot Sao Paulo, so if you know it, you can shout it out. But Mexico City, Singapore, Lagos, Bangalore, Kiev, these are all places that have incredible technology talent, and the reason that other people are going there is because you can find great talent at a lower price. Let's see if this moves. There we go. And from that, while there's the arbitrage in pricing, obviously the diversity, what I mentioned earlier about not having distributed, but distributed and diverse, has been really important to us as a company. And as we build our businesses, seeing the impact it can have on our revenues. So diversity here, the way that we're sort of looking at it and defining is individuals working together with a wide range of characteristics and experiences. Notably, could be ethnicity or where someone is from, but it also includes age or gender ability. And what's really important to us at WIZE as well, and when we think about leadership, is not just this specific definition, and maybe having 5 women or having 2 people from another country, but making sure in the interviews and the way that we talk that people have different lived experiences. So you can have 5 women, but if all 5 women went to the same high school, went to the same college, worked at the same big companies, their lived experience is still very narrow, and you're not going to get that same type of diversity of thought that you want when you want to innovate. Because diversity, as we've seen, and we'll see here with a couple of statistics from Boston Consulting Group, having a diverse set of perspectives is going to help you create and make innovation. So here on the left, you can see that 26% of companies reported innovation revenues, but they had below diversity scores. And companies with above average diversity scores, they reported that they had more revenue from their innovative projects reported for that year. And that means if you have more revenue coming from your innovative products, your company is going to continue to move forward in a very innovative way. If you're on the left-hand side here, maybe your innovation projects aren't working, maybe they're not the right types of projects for your company. There can be a lot of mismatch, or I think what happens a lot here is you just sort of are doing the same thing. You're not really able to see from a different perspective what's to come in the future. Similarly, 50% of the revenue of companies with more diverse leadership comes from products and services launched in the last 3 years. So if half of your revenue comes from these 3 years of new projects, that means you need a team that's going to be able to think of these new ideas and create new things that matter to your business. And overall, these companies that had high diversity scores, they had almost 10% of higher EBITDA margins for their overall annual profits. And 10%, 9 to 10% is meaningful. If you own a business, that can mean make or break for a lot of monthly payments. That can mean getting to the next level, to the next fundraising, to the next stage. And so it's really meaningful to have these types of numbers. And similarly, at WIZE, what we do is we kind of combine having a headquarters in Silicon Valley, in the middle, as we talk about here, that we believe in being located in a place that has a lot of diverse ideas, but having distributed teams around the world allows us to not only have the culture and be absorbed in it in the Bay Area, but also be able to hire the best talent around the world. And then we're engineering driven. So because we're so focused on building products and working with our engineers, we believe that letting our engineers drive how we do things will help us work more efficiently. And last but not least, the global aspect. Who here has been on an international trip in their lifetime? You can raise your hand. Most people. Most people in our lives, we're all third culture kids. So if you don't know what a third culture kid is, it's someone who was born between 2 parents who are from different cultures. So if you're a Brazilian and you married someone from France, or you're Brazilian and married from someone in the US, your children have grown up into two different types of cultures. What's happening now is, as you look at the new adults and us and everyone in this room, this generation has had more access to communication, to travel than any generation before. We've traveled, you've traveled for school, you've traveled for work, and what we've done is we've absorbed other cultures and taken the time to learn a new language, taken the time to talk to someone in Israel and say, hey, what are the problems in your country? I lived in Latin America for almost 7 years, and while I'm from Texas, I consider myself from the United States, but I feel very Latina. And some people joke, that since I'm from Texas and lived in Mexico, that now I'm Tex-Mex. And I feel, honestly, that I have culturally absorbed the Latin American culture. It's something that I'm going to continue to use in my life. So it makes so much sense that when you think about how I would build a company, I might build it with a little bit of Latin American influence now. If you spent half of your life in Russia, if you spent part of your life in Africa, it's natural that you would probably build your company or invest in companies with that look and with that sort of vision to how you would do things. And so now, kind of to leave you with this last thought as we go through all of these 3 points, is that now that we've been able to understand our current investors should be spending more time to get to know growth markets and really bet on this new wave of global native entrepreneurs. And that's similarly what I talked to before. It's the people, this new group of adults that they were born either with family that's very diverse, or they've had the ability to experience and travel around the world. So these are the ones who lived across the world most of their adult lives and believe they can build a company that looks just like them. Global, diverse, and distributed. So as you think about the companies that you're going to build and the companies that you're going to invest in today, I would ask you to join me in thinking about building it global, diverse, and distributed. Thank you very much.